I think this was interesting because who here was with the plenary this morning? I mean, how many times did they say story? I was like, yes, this is awesome. Because it's all about telling a good story, folks. I mean, I heard it at least 5 times. So let's start with a little quick play. It's getting a little late, and I am holding you up to the ice. I am going to play a little voting game. Everybody gets to play. I'm going to say 2 words. I'm going to say both words. I want you to think about both words. Then I'm going to say both words again, and I want you to vote on your favorite word when it comes around, okay? Simple game, okay? All right. Story, data. Okay, now we're going to vote. Story, okay, data. I like you guys. I love, it's not an unsurprising answer. When you tell a story, what happened to me, man? I'm getting my box. Is it up? What's going on?
I went to from the beginning. So
okay, cool. When you tell a story to people, they lean in, right? They want to hear the story. When you talk about data, their eyes glaze over. They don't really want to hear about it. But I will recommend, if you want 8 minutes and 20 some odd seconds of a good time, watch this guy, Joseph Shirash. He's a vice president for Microsoft in machine learning and information systems or intelligence systems. Connected cows. And if you want to know what big data is, that's the simplest way, and you'll enjoy it. Okay? But he makes this claim, and I believe it, every company is a data company. Problem. Remember the little kid? That doesn't sound fun. Who has been to a storytelling workshop? I have. You have in the back? And I'm talking no kidding professional, fairly high price. You go away for a couple of days and you learn how to tell a story. These are becoming big time. Business wants to know how to tell a story, right? Did not we hear that today in the plenary session? People don't want to hear about data. They want to hear a story. What? Don't tell me how. What? And so this is sort of a mini, as much as you can fit in 20 minutes, we're going to do this. Okay? I think that you can walk out of here with some key lessons and hopefully some intrigue. I'm going to leave you with a challenge at the end. Because if you don't do this for yourself, whether you're the boss, the manager, or the worker, you are hurting yourself. Trust me on this. First, we're going to play a little game. I am going to ask you to take on a persona. I'm going to show you a terrible way to tell a data story. All right? And what I want you to do is I want you to be a volleyball coach, and I'm going to be a vendor. Okay? You're the coach, and you've invited me to come to the courts because you're going to hear my pitch. Thank you, Coach Smith. Thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate you letting me show you our product. It's an awesome product. We've been working on it for a couple years now, and it is scientifically proven. We've done a lot of studies. We've worked with a lot of coaches, and we've taken a lot of data, big data. You may have heard of big data. We've taken a lot of this big data, and we've done some statistics. And what we found is the more that this game that we have, the more that your players play the game, the better they're going to judge the correct position on the court. And that's important in defense. This thing it's sound. It's scientifically sound. We've got over 300,000 data points we've used to make up this model. And you can see the slope. It's going down. It's statistically studied. So clearly, okay. I just found this quote, but I've been saying for years, you know what I like about Einstein? Is he somehow had a way to penetrate and talk to people like presidents of the United States and explain to him the implications of the thing that they discovered. Stephen Hawking's. When you're really good, you can bring it down, can't you? If you're not so good, you're either trying to hide something from me or you're not that smart. What do you think people are thinking about when you go in with something like that? That's not a very compelling case. Don't tell me how it works, just tell me what. So let's just talk a little bit about data, and then we'll get to storytelling. And There's big data, neuroscience, and deep learning. Big data we briefly touched on already. The 3 V's, lots of data. It comes in very quickly. The Sloan Observatory Telescope project, sorry I don't have the exact name, it pulls down 40 terabytes a month. And that's a lot when you're dealing with zeros and ones. Trust me, that's a lot of data. If I get a gig of data, it's a lot for me to sift through. And then you've got the variety of it all. Twitter feeds, census data, weather data. Why can't I mash all that up to tell me the best time to rent bicycles in a city at the beach? You should be able to, but they're not all in a database. No excuses anymore. No excuses. The solutions are out there. The field of neuroscience completely fascinates me. I've been sort of looking at it a couple years now. I don't do it. It's a fascinating field. Ever since the early Egyptians found that a certain type of head wound caused a certain type of brain reaction, neuroscience was founded. And ever since fMRI, the functional magnetic resonance I, whatever that letter is, I can't remember, you know that they can put dyes in your brain and they can tell you stories, they can tell you things, and they will see what parts of your brain light up. They found out the amygdala down here is a lot more sensitive to what's going on in the world than your prefrontal cortex, and it will do things quicker than here. If anybody's read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, that's what the whole book's about. Fascinating area, fascinating. And if you want to talk at the social, I can tell you how they were able to allow someone to see with their tongue because of neuroscience. See with their tongue because of neuroscience. Which gets me to deep learning. And back in 1989, artificial neural networks were a big deal because a guy at AT&T Bell Labs figured out how to read zip codes on letters without teaching it. It was talked about today in the discussion where you don't have to teach machines, they teach themselves. Well, that was neural networks. Deep learning is going deeper. Watson, who's heard of Watson from IBM? There you go. This is what they've done now is the computing aspects of it. The algorithms are talking to each other in a 3D complex way that really is starting to mimic. When you see light, all your eye nerves don't see the same thing. They all they're complementary to one another. It's a fascinating space. All this now is having an impact on this space that we're talking about. And if you don't need to know this, but people are going to be coming at you with results that stem from this. And the storyteller, again, whether you're the boss, the manager, or the doer, you have to know how to deal with it. The verse and the visual. Those are the two elements you have as a storyteller. You have picture, you have words, and let's see what we can do. Joseph Campbell in the 1970s wrote, this was in his book. I'll let you read it for a second. Somebody took this and turned it into an executive memo, sold it to Disney, and guess what? All their movies do this. You can find that memo on the web. It's a fascinating read. But a data company in the Boston area had this slide up there. It's called The Hero's Journey. You could read it, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, right? There's a lot of commonality in these stories. There's a way. Storytelling is a bit like a structure. And so you go through this process of there's a status quo, then something happens, but that's not the important thing because that puts somebody on a quest. Jesse said something happened to me, I'm on a quest. Guess what? The real interesting thing was the surprises that I'm finding now that I'm on the quest. And now I got to make a critical choice, and I will achieve some sort of climax in my journey. Hopefully there's a reversal, you get resolution. You see this over and over and over played out. Look up Hero's Journey. There's like sometimes 18 steps to it. This is a pretty good one. Andrew Linderman. I took his storytelling course. Here's his 5 big takeaways. You need a character. You got to make this thing real. You got to make it understandable to somebody. You need to outline what's the problem. You heard that today. What's the tension? Good stories are about tension, right? If it's all easy, it's no fun, but you need to resolve it because if you don't, we got a problem with that because we're all trained that everything happens in 30 minutes or an hour and a half on a movie. And then Linderman talks about hint of the future. In defense contracting, that's future studies, right? In a story, though, it keeps them interested. If you're doing social blogging, it keeps them interested in coming back for more. Where might this go? Andrew talked about anecdotal. Well, now I want to see when you get real data. He gave me a hint of the future. That's a good storytelling. Let's look at some key elements of visual. Now, Tableau. Has anybody heard of Tableau? It's a free source. It was meant for bloggers. You can use it for free. It's just your data is not private. It's public. It's a great tool. It's fascinating. It's very easy to use. They ranked the best 5 visuals of all time. I'm going to show you 2 of them that were my favorite. And this one here is London, 1854. Cholera breaks out. John Snow is an epidemiologist. 200 people die in a matter of 4 weeks. That's a bad day, bad couple of weeks. And what he does, you may not notice this, but these are little histograms. He made a marker at the address of where everyone died, and this is just a portion of the map. And you see the city, and he found it right there. It says pump, and there was a contaminated pump that was making everybody sick and killing them. Data helped him become the detective. This one, Edward Tufte, he's written a series of books, fascinating, beautiful books. He says this perhaps could be the best visual of all time, end quote. And what this is the advance and retreat of Napoleon from the year 1812 to 1813 into Moscow on the far right. There are 6 dimensions in this, and this was built in, I don't even know when it was, I can't remember, I should have remembered. But when Menard wrote this, he was using just pen, ink, no software. There's troop strength. This is temperature. Yes, this is minus 19 degrees Celsius. It shows what direction, where troops split off. You can see the end. You can see the retreat. You see how many started. You can see how many came back. What if Napoleon was getting briefed this along the way? Might he had an aha moment? May things have been different? History will never know. That's a brief mini-series, mini-lecture on storytelling. Let's take the same scenario we started with. Let's try to do this a little bit more like a story. Okay? Okay. I'm transforming. I'm going back in time. All right. Hey, Coach Smith, thanks for having me out here today. It's really great doing wonderful stuff with your students. And I know, it's a tough world out there, and they all want to get those college scholarships. And it's competitive. And I really appreciate you just taking a little bit of your time so we can talk about a product that we've been working on. And it's really what it is, it's a game. And, let me tell you a story, Coach Smith. We've got a player that we've been working with for a couple of years. Her name's T. And she had some natural abilities, but she came to the courts late. But she had this burning desire to get a college scholarship. But you only get so much court time. You only get so much practice time. And so that inspired us to create a product. And it looks a lot like things That's very appealing. And so what happened was we worked with T and a bunch of other players. And now when she's sitting around on the bench, it allows her to see and play game and practice things because she was getting bumped and bruised and it wasn't helping because there's limitations. So now during travel, waiting for practice, when she's not at home, she played over 3,000 plays on this thing. We've got data on over 300,000 points, and we've collected it together. And this is what we can give for you, Coach. After a person plays, they're playing interactively with people. And that person then can see. We have found that after just 60 minutes of playing, it can reduce their placement error by that much. So clearly, I'll stop there. Different? Why? Let's throw 3 things out there. Why was it different? Visualization, okay.
Emotional connection.
Creates a connection, engagement, right? There was character involved, right? Okay, another? Started with a problem, very good. Simpler. Anything else stand out to anybody really big? Benefits, thank you very much. Because you noticed you picked up the word features, and of course you don't sell features. My car's got a bunch of features, but what benefits me? Was there one other one? We'll take. Right. And of course they were made up examples, but have you not seen something like the former? It's happened. I've done it myself. Come on, I'll be honest. One of the big things they taught me when I was going through my coursework for data science is you do not tell a chronological story of all the analysis you did. I don't care. I don't care how long it took. I don't care every spreadsheet you made. I don't care. What's the question that I asked and what's the answer? Now, this isn't said. If more people ask that question, we get a lot better results. But we all live in this sort of angst and we don't do it. That's what you want. Is it better? That's the kind of reaction you want. I leave you with a challenge. I talked about a lot of stuff. Take two. You go to Panera, pick two, find one article on each of those, and just look it up. You owe it to yourself. Again, if you're the leader, the senior leader, don't let bad data analysis come into your office, because no one will get fixed. If you're an analyst, don't do this stuff poorly. It's your responsibility. Just because Excel can't do it for you, figure it out. And if you're a manager in the middle, God help you. Because you really have a challenge, and I mean that. You really have a challenge because there are some incredibly talented people coming out of graduate programs right now, but they're also going to want to show off all the cool stuff they've got. You are the bridge between them and senior management, and you'd like to kind of continue. So take two of those topics, whatever they were. Big data, I recommend it. Watch Connected Cows, have a good time with it. Force yourself during this week sometime to hit the Wi-Fi and find a blog, find a video on both those. Any questions, thoughts, comments, spears, cocktails?
Volley sim really is a game.
Oh, yes. Brian? Is Sansi here? So we, last year, if you were here for ModSim, one of the Entrepreneur Challenge competition, I should say, that's what we have a challenge now. One of the entrepreneur competition entrants was VolleySim. And this year we tried to do sort of a where are they now, because someone else won the contest. But VolleySim actually got some support, some investor support. And they've got a great management team. And I saw them in February at a State of the Startup Entrepreneur Conference that happens down at the Slover Library here in Norfolk. And I ran into them and I said, how you doing? And Candace and I, who is out ill this week, we've been wanting to do this particular talk for 2 years, but we all been busy. We know how busy life is. And this young couple, who's doing great things as young entrepreneurs and really are kind of all in, this is real. And the story that I told you is in the paper, and they helped co-author it. So that's true. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other thoughts, questions? Tell a good story. Everybody likes them.
Let's give a round of applause for Angie Collins and Jay.